Hi, this is Leslie with Silver Lining Knitting, and in this video I'm going to demonstrate and explain the cable stitches that are most often used in Celtic knot stitch patterns like this. These are all 4-stitch cables. There are right-leaning and left-leaning stitches, some using knit and purl stitches and some using all knit stitches. Let me first explain how these Celtic patterns are knit. You have a background of reverse stockinette, which in loom knitting is all purl stitches. Then you have knit stitches that form the strands of the Celtic knot. And the cable stitches are what move the strands around in the pattern. You can see in this photo the black section is where the strands are just moving from side to side without crossing, and those are the knit and purl cables. Then the places in red where the strands cross each other are the all knit cable stitches. Okay, let's try practicing some of these cables. This is a practice chart that I'm using, and I'll put a link in the comments to this. It's 20 stitches across, and it has garter stitch border, a few rows at the beginning and end, and a few pegs at the ends of the beginning and end of each row, so that once you've got your swatch knitted, it will lay nice and flat. I also, whenever I knit flat panels, I always add a turning peg or edge stitch to each end of the row, and I don't include those on the chart. So I actually have cast on 22 pegs using an E-wrap cast on, and I've knit the first 5 rows, 6 rows, 5 rows. Which starts the garter stitch border, and then it establishes the reverse stockinette background and the 2 knit stitches that show each of the strands of my knot that's going to be in the pattern. So if I turn this over, it's a little hard to see the stockinette yet, but here you can see the 2 knit stitches that are the 1 strand, and then there are 2 over here as well. And I have my stitch markers like on the chart, and I've also added markers for my edge pegs or turning pegs, so that I know right away if I've dropped a stitch at the edge. All right, now we're going to try this first row that has cables. And you can see the cables are between the blue and purple stitch, and then again between the purple and blue. And so I'm going to do the purls all the way across the beginning of the row and then show you how to do the cables. The yarn that I'm using is just sort of a generic acrylic 5-weight yarn on my Kiss regular gauge loom with no spacers in. This makes a good, the yarn's easy to knit with, it has good stitch definition, so it'll be easy to see how this works, I hope. It also has a little bit of give, which is good when you're doing cables. All right, so now I've done all the purls at the edge. I'm up to the point where I will start the cable. This is a right-leaning cable, and the easiest way I find to remember how to start is I looked for the high end of the stitch symbol, and on this you see how the lines go up to this side. So this is the high side. This is where my stitches on the front need to go. So what I'm going to do is start by picking up those 2 stitches out of the way. This is a right-leaning cable, so I want the stitches that go from that move to the right to be on the front of the work, which means they have to be on the bottom of the pegs. So I'm going to pick up the other 2 stitches and get them out of the way. And I start on the outside of the cable and work toward the middle. And I put them both on the cable needle, and I just put them in the back. Now I'm going to move the other 2 stitches over to the empty pegs. Those are the stitches I want on the front of my work because they're moving to the right. Now, when I pick up the cable needle to move these 2 stitches back, I want to make sure that I have it the same direction, that it doesn't get twisted. So I always put the part that picks up the stitches on the top. So now I'm actually going to put them both on one peg because that's kind of easier to start with, and then I'll pick up the top one and move it over to the next peg. So now they're in the same order that they were when I put them on when I took them off the loom. Now, because my strand of yarn is moving from these 2 pegs to these 2 pegs, I'm going to purl the background stitches again. So you can always look at the next row up. These are purls and these are knit. So that's what I'm going to do to finish these stitches. I'm going to purl the first 2. Oops. And knit the second 2. So now I have my stitches that moved, that leaned to the right, are knit, and they're the ones that are in the front. The next cable we're doing is backwards. So this one is left leaning. This is the high side of the stitch symbol. So those are the 2 stitches I'm going to pick up first. So I pick up the one on the purple peg and the next one. Put them to the back, move the other 2 stitches over. So now I'm going to get a left leaning because the stitches that are moving to the left are going to be in the front. And I put these back on the peg. And occasionally you get this problem where it's a little hard to put the 2 of them on the peg, but I still find that that's easier because I get both of them off the cable needle. Then I can pick the right one to move over to the next peg. And our stitches, our strand has moved from these 2 pegs to these 2, so these are the ones that will knit. And these 2 will get purled. And then we purl the rest of the row. Including the last 2 stitches on the row where my garter stitch border is. But the turning peg is knit. And I use those turning pegs so that you get a nice clean edge on the sides. I have another video about that as well. Okay, this video is getting kind of long, so I'm going to make a part 2 that includes the all knit cable stitches that we'll use. I wanted to show you quickly the book that I get the ideas for these Celtic patterns from. It's a really great book, and I will link to it in the comments. So I will see you in Cables for Celtic Patterns Part 2.